Those good to be with you this morning, and if you've got a Bible, you need to open it up. We're going to be looking at Exodus. We're continuing that journey from slavery in Egypt to a relationship with God at Mount Sinai. And that's what the book of Exodus is all about, how God brings his people from that point of utter servitude to a nation that is holding them in captivity, and teaches them about himself and leads them to a relationship, a covenant relationship with him, a binding relationship with him at Mount Sinai, as in the giving of the law. But we're in chapter 14. I'm actually going to read from chapter 13, verse 17, and we're going to read right through to the end of chapter 14. So if you want to listen, do. If you want to follow in the Bibles, there are ones in the pews. I haven't got a number in front of me. 71, if you're going there. Let's hear what God says in history. So chapter 13, verse 17. When Pharaoh let the people go, God did not lead them on the road through the Philistine country, though that was shorter. But God said if they faced war, they might change their minds and return to Egypt. So God led the people round by the desert road towards the Red Sea. And the Israelites went up out of Egypt, equipped or ready for battle. Moses took the bones of Joseph with him, because Joseph had made the Israelites swear an oath. He had said, God will surely come to your aid, and then you must carry my bones up with you from this place. After leaving Succoth, they encamped at Etham on the edge of the desert. By day the Lord went ahead of them in a pillar of cloud to guide them on their way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light, so that they could travel by day or night. Neither the pillar of cloud by day nor the pillar of fire by night left its place in front of the people. Then the Lord said to Moses, tell the Israelites to turn back and camp near Pi-Hahiroth, between Migdol and the sea, and they are to camp by the sea, directly opposite Baal-Zephon. And Pharaoh will think, well, the Israelites are wandering around in a land in confusion, hemmed in by the desert. And I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and he will pursue them. But I will gain glory for myself through Pharaoh and all his army, and the Egyptians will know that I am the Lord. So the Israelites did this. When the king of Egypt was told that the people had fled, Pharaoh and his officials changed their minds about them and said, what have we done? We have let the Israelites go and have lost their services. So he had his chariot made ready and took his army with him. He took 600 of the best chariots, along with all the other chariots of Egypt, with officers over all of them. The Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, so that he pursued the Israelites who were marching out boldly. The Egyptians, all Pharaoh's horses and chariots, horsemen and troops, pursued the Israelites and overtook them as they encamped by the sea near Pi-Hahiroth, opposite Baal-Zephon. As Pharaoh approached, the Israelites looked up, and there were the Egyptians marching after them. They were terrified and cried out to the Lord. And they said to Moses, was it because there were no graves in Egypt that you brought us out to the desert to die? What have you done to us by bringing us out of Egypt? Did we say to you in Egypt, leave us alone, let us serve the Egyptians? It would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the desert. Moses answered the people, do not be afraid, stand firm, and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. The Egyptians you see today, you will never see again. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. And the Lord said to Moses, why are you crying out to me? Tell the Israelites to move on. Raise your staff and stretch out your hand over the sea to divide the water so the Israelites can go through the sea on dry ground. I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians so that they will go in after them, and I will gain glory through Pharaoh and all his army, through his chariots and his horsemen. The Egyptians will know that I am the Lord when I gain glory through Pharaoh, his chariots and his horsemen. Then the angel of the Lord, who had been travelling in front of Israel's army, withdrew and went behind them. The pillar of cloud also moved from in front and stood behind them, coming between the armies of Egypt and Israel. And throughout the night, the clouds brought darkness to the one side and light to the other, so that neither went near the other all night long. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea. And all that night the Lord drove the sea back with a strong east wind and turned it into dry land. The waters were divided. And the Israelites went through the sea on dry ground, with a wall of water on the right and on the left. The Egyptians pursued them, and all Pharaoh's horses and chariots and horsemen followed them into the sea. And during the last watch of the night, the Lord looked down from the pillar of fire and cloud at the Egyptian army and threw it into confusion. He jammed the wheels of their chariots so that they had difficulty driving. And the Egyptians said, "Let's get away from the Israelites. The Lord is fighting for them against Egypt." And the Lord said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the sea, so that the waters may flow back over the Egyptians and their chariots and horsemen." And Moses stretched out his hand over the sea. And at daybreak, the sea went back over its place. The Egyptians were fleeing towards it, and the Lord swept them into the sea. The water flowed back and covered the chariots and horsemen, the entire army of Pharaoh that had followed the Israelites into the sea. Not one of them survived. But the Israelites went through the sea on dry ground, and with a wall of water on their right and on their left. And that day the Lord saved Israel from the hands of the Egyptians. And Israel saw the Egyptians lying dead on the shore. When the Israelites saw the mighty hands the Lord displayed against the Egyptians, the people feared the Lord and put their trust in him and his servant Moses. Well, that's quite a story. Who's seen The Prince of Egypt? Anybody? That great Disney Pixar production, Steven Spielberg's effort to depict this moment in history. It's very dramatic, isn't it? We have that cartoon effect of pillars of cloud and of fire. We have the sea going whoosh up, you have the burning bush, you've got everything there, and we all watch it as adults and we think, really? That's just for kids, isn't it? Well, let me tell you now, this story was recorded as a record of history, as the Israelites looked back on what the Lord had done and wanted us to tell us the history with meaning. So they teach us about God's acts, and they teach us the meaning of what God has done as he does it. And that's the extraordinary thing about these stories, that they're not just stories, they're based in history of what has happened, but they are the eyes of faith on God doing what he said he would do in faithfulness all the days of their lives. It's dramatic. It's also incredibly terrifying, isn't it? I just picture myself as one of those Israelites on the other side. And we all may have seen on TV pictures of dead bodies. We may have seen dead bodies ourselves. But as they looked on the dead bodies of the Egyptians, they knew that God had utterly crushed the people who wanted to destroy them, who wanted to enslave them, who wanted them to be completely serving them, not God. And so we're in a series which says, who is God? And in this chapter we find out that God is, strangely, a warrior. He fights. He fights for his people. He fights in a way that his people will know, and all Egypt will know, and all Israel, and actually everyone around, everyone will know that he is the Lord. And there is no other. There's lots that we'll read here who will feel strange in 21st century Britain. Well, let's dive back into what they saw, what happened, and let's see through their eyes who the Lord is for us. I want to get that first slide up, if it's going to work. Great, so who is God? This series is Who I Am. And you may remember, if you've been here in the series, Exodus chapter 3, when Moses says to God, he's at the point when God is saying, you've got to go to the Israelites to tell them that I will let them go. I will free them. And what does Moses say? He says, suppose I go to the Israelites and say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me to you. And they ask me, what is his name? Then what shall I tell them? And God said to Moses, I am who I am. This is what you are to say to the Israelites. I am has sent me to you. That phrase, I am, is an extraordinary name. It says that God is self-existing. No one made him. He just is. The great uncreated creator. The always existing, always there creator of this whole world. He depends on no one for his existence. He's also self-defining. I am who I am. There's no one like him. There's no one else compared to him. There is none other than this God who's revealed in history. He's also self-revealing. Because as he unfolds what it means that he always will be who he is, and he will act in faithfulness for his people. He is constant. I am who I am, and I will act in faithfulness to deliver you as my people. As Jonathan read at the start of the service from Psalm 90, from everlasting to everlasting, you are God. Let's go to the next slide. One of the surprising things that for us, for some of us here even for the first time, might be that Jesus himself took this name for himself. So when we ask the question, who is Jesus, one of the definitive Christian answers isn't just he was a man who walked the earth 2,000 years ago, but he claimed to be far more than that. So when he was asked, and next, he's in a situation where he's with a group of Jewish leaders. And he said that he actually said that Abraham looked forward. Abraham of Genesis looked forward to when he would come. And the Jewish leaders get really, really frustrated with him. They say, well, you're not yet 50 years old, Jesus. And you say you've seen Abraham? And Jesus says, very true, I tell you, before Abraham was born, I am. Did you get the link? Jesus is taking the name of God from Exodus chapter 3 and saying, I am that God. God with us. And no wonder they pick up stones to stone him, because they're saying this is blasphemy. They're saying you're claiming equality with God, Jesus. You're not just a man, you are claiming to be God's son. Not even God's servant, but God's son. So as we look at this chapter, very briefly, we're going to be learning not just about how God is fighting for Israel and fought for them. We're going to ask, how does God fight for us through his son, Jesus? Because the great I am didn't just act in history at this point. He acts again and again and again and again and again as the great I am in Jesus for us. It's great news. So as we look forward, as we scroll forward, we look at who is God, and we find a surprising truth, because in this chapter, one of the big themes is what is there. Is there in the centre of Exodus 14. Remember that point when the people see the Egyptians coming over the hill? We're told in that chapter that they were ready for battle, but clearly they weren't. They may have had all the armour, they may have had all the equipment, that in their hearts there's a real issue. Because when they see the enemy, they're thinking, we're dead. We're absolutely dead. And do you remember the questions they asked of Moses? Why did you bring us here to die? Wouldn't it be better if you left us there in Egypt? Your father, didn't we say at the time, just leave us here? It's okay here, we don't mind being slaves. We'd rather be slaves in Egypt than die here in the desert. Their eyes as they look at the Egyptians, they only see a power that will destroy them. But what does Moses say? He says, don't be afraid, stand firm, and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring to you today. The Egyptians you see today, you will never see again. And then there's that phrase, the Lord will fight for you. You only need to be still. Now, I don't know about you, when I hear the word, the Lord will fight for you, I start hearing all sorts of things about our modern day unholy holy wars. You know, the word jihad has been put around in our country and in this world in ways that are terrifying. To use the name of God to destroy people and to destroy life and civilization around is an unholy thing. There's nothing holy about that. But when we hear God fighting, we think, well, isn't it? What does he mean? On the other hand, we may think of the Brazil or the Brazilian football team praying together before a football match. And we think, well, God might help them win, they're thinking, as they pray. So what does it mean that God fights for his people? If by this we don't mean the unholy ways in which people are treated in his name today, in even with the Crusades before, and if by this we don't mean on the other side some frivolous prayer before a football match, as if God will win. I'm sorry for Tottenham fans. I heard it was a very boring match last night. But Liverpool won. I'm not but anyway, it's just a prayer before a football match, isn't it? It's just a prayer. But what we see in this passage is we learn how the Lord fights for us. We learn how the Lord leads and guides, protects and delivers against the greatest of enemies. I just want to help us to see that now as we look through the passage. Because we see how the Lord fights for his people, how he led them faithfully. I don't know if you were following as I read in Exodus 13, but we're told at the start that when Pharaoh let the people go, certain things happened. The first thing was that he takes them by a strange route, doesn't he? He doesn't take them straight through Philistia, which is the direct route out of Egypt into the Promised Land. No, he says, go around the houses. The reason being because he knows if they go through Philistia, the Philistines will want to attack them, and they're not ready. So he knows what they need, and he leads them through a path so that they will always look to him and not look back to Egypt. And what's more, he gives Moses Moses picks up this bag of bones. Do you know whose bones they are? They're Joseph's bones. And do you know how long Joseph had lived before that? 400 years before. And when he had died at the end of Genesis 50, do you know what he said to his people? He said, you're going to take my bones with you when you leave this land. Everything around him at the time said that's never going to happen. But Joseph was faithful. You just picture him holding this bag or this case, or I don't know how he carried it, but this box of bones. And that was testament to the people that God is faithful to do what he promised him to do to his followers. God can be trusted. He trusted again and again and again. The Lord led them faithfully, and he leads them personally. this pillar of clouds and the fire, we don't know what it looked like, we don't know what it was, but it clearly represents God's presence with his people. Yeah? They had the visual representation of Joseph's bones. They also had the presence of God in this pillar. One of the relevances of this for us is how the Lord does this for us in Jesus. You know, I've never been at a point where I've been with someone as they've handed over their possessions before they die. But to have Joseph saying, I'm about to die, and make sure my bones go with you. It's a statement of faith, isn't it? It's a statement of faith that says, I'm not going to be buried here. I'm going to be buried in the promised land, the land that my God has promised him. Now for us as Christians, we don't have a bag of bones to carry around, but we have an empty tomb. We have a place where Jesus was laid, but the bones were not there after 3 days. And that is the testimony we carry around in our lips, in our hearts, in the way we live, because we say that we will not only die here, we will enter into a new creation with God's people. God will surely come to our aid in death. He will surely come to our aid in the hardships of life. And he will surely lead us into the land he's promised us, which isn't a geographical piece of land of Israel, but a whole new creation, a new heavens and new earth, said Jesus. These are the bigger promises that these smaller promises don't. The Lord led them faithfully. He will lead us faithfully in Jesus. And he always will. That's who he is. He can't be anything other. And do you know what? It's really important we hear that, because when I'm trying to work, or when I'm listening to my kids in the morning, or when I'm doing anything during the week where I'm trying to maybe visit someone or care for someone, or I've got that strife with whoever, it matters in the nitty-gritty of life that we can say, God is leading us faithfully. Because you know, Israel were not ready to hear this promise when they entered the promised land. Moses had said this promise all the way back in chapter 6. But because of their brokenness under the suffering of servitude, they weren't in a place to hear the promise. But God was with them. Regardless of their circumstances, regardless of how they feel, but he was with them to lead them faithfully. And he is with us to lead us faithfully if we have faith in Jesus and follow him. It's the first thing, it's just 2 words. The second thing that I find, I don't know if you thought it when you heard this, but the way the Lord hardens the opponent's heart. We find this really hard, don't we? But one of the truths that we hear here is that God acts in such a way that he confounds and confirms Pharaoh in his decision to say, I definitely will not let this people go. The start of chapter 14. Do you remember the route he gives them? He said, can you march in such a way that word gets back to Pharaoh that basically it looks like you're completely confused. You don't know where you're going, you're lost, you fled, but you've got no direction. And what does Pharaoh say? Well, Pharaoh says, right, let's go and get them, we want them back. So he goes after them. Humanly, that's what's going on. But sovereignly, God has already said what Moses will think. Verse 3 of chapter 14. The Israelites are wandering around in the land in confusion, hemmed in the desert. And what does God say he'll do? Verse 4. I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and he will pursue them. Now, what do you think of that? We read in Proverbs that God knows the heart. In Proverbs chapter 16, we're told that all a person's ways seem pure to them, but motives are weighed by the Lord. And that's true for all of us. We all may think, oh, I'm not that bad. We all might think, actually, do you know what? I think I'm okay, I think I'm in the right. Actually, it says here that God knows our motives. And he knew the motives of Pharaoh. And what's more, he didn't just know his motives, but we're also told in Proverbs 16, verse 18, that pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall. And God didn't change Pharaoh's heart. He just said, if that's what you want to do, Pharaoh, I'm going to give you over to what you want to do. I'm going to harden that. You remember, say, when you're in a garden, and maybe in your allotment, and you're walking along the ground, and if you walk on it enough, the ground just gets harder, doesn't it? It just gets to the point where it becomes a path. And it's really hard to penetrate. And that's what God allows for all of us if we choose to not believe in him or not recognise him. He says, I will give you over to your unbelieving hearts. And it's a really tricky truth for us It says that God is sovereign over our decisions, but we are still responsible. We're still responsible. So you look forward in John, Jesus describes this in John chapter 14. Let's bring that up. We're told in chapter 14 with Jesus, even after Jesus had performed so many signs in the presence, they still did not believe him. Remember in Egypt, all the signs of God's judgment, the flies, the gnats, the boils, you would have thought the message would get through. But again, Moses says, yeah, I'll let them go. No way. And then, get out. And then when they're out, let's go again. He cannot let them go. He cannot do what God wants him to do. But at the same time, John, we're told that at the same time, even among the leaders of the Jews, people believed in him. So that's pretty important to hear. So if we're unbelieving in Jesus now, that doesn't mean we'll always be unbelieving in Jesus. It just means that if we're going to believe in Jesus, God has to have mercy on us and say, I'm going to draw you to faith in me through Jesus. Often, you might picture this like a room. So imagine this room. Imagine this room. The doors were open. They weren't locked. And we're all here. And I say, you can all leave if you want. You can all leave if you want. It's completely up to you. But imagine if we all said, no, I'm actually going to stay. Or imagine if I said, no, I really want you to leave. No, I actually really want to stay. No, you are free to go. The doors are open. You can go through the door. You can enjoy the whole world. No, I'll just stay where I am. I don't want to go out there. There's no chains on me. There's nothing holding me in apart from my own will. Jesus taught that anyone who sins, which is the Bible word for anything that doesn't please God in our thoughts and our actions and our words, is a slave to sin. Hard words, aren't they? It's like we're in a room where God says, please me. You say, no, I'm going to please myself. No, God, you can enter a world, you can please me. No, I'm just going to please myself. I want you to go into that world. I want you to please me. No, I'm just going to please myself. I'm going nowhere. In other words, if any of us have any chance of enjoying God in God's world, we need someone to come into the room and to lead us out. That's exactly what God does in Jesus. He comes into our world as the man Jesus, God with us, and he leads us out of that servitude to just do what we want. It means we don't have to sin anymore. Isn't that an amazing truth? That he hands us over, yes, he hands Pharaoh over to do what he wants. He hardens him. But in the rescue he provides, he's willing to say, I will lead my people out of slavery. And for us, that slavery is to our sin, and to death, and to evil. Because the Lord led them out of slavery, it just is one of those astonishing films have been made down through the years. It's a definitive moment in Israel's history as he protects his people, as he delivers his people, and as he judges his opponents. But just listen to what the the Egyptians say as the waters come back on them. In Exodus 14, verse 25, as he jammed the wheels of their chariots so that they had difficulty driving, and the Egyptians said, let's get away from Egypt, from the Israelites. Let's get away from them. The Lord is fighting for them against Egypt. And it's just too little too late. They're in the midst of their downfall. And it's just too late. At that point they knew that it was too late. And it wasn't as if the Lord didn't give them an opportunity throughout the many years in which He's given them the signs in Egypt. But in their hardness of heart, they chose not to believe and not to follow. You know, one of the things about this passage is that it encourages us to recognise a deep reality that is existing in our world. And that reality is that God is at work. He was at work to save the save the Israelites on that day from the Egyptians. He was at work in Jesus to save us from our sin, from our wrong. And He does it at the cross by fighting for us to take. He takes it on Himself. And He fights and He wins. He rises from the dead. But that leaves us all with a big question of how will we recognise this reality? For the Israelites, what they did is quite clear at the end of the passage. It says, on that day the Lord saved Israel from the hands of the Egyptians, and the Israelites saw the Egyptians lying dead on the shore, and when the Israelites saw the mighty hand of the Lord displayed against the Egyptians, they feared the Lord. That's worship language, that's respect language. That says, with every ounce of my being, I will now give myself in worship to the Lord who has now rescued me from all my wrongs. But it's not just He's worthy of our worship now for what He's done. What we also find is that there's a reality to recognise. Because they put their trust in Him, the Lord, and His servants. And that, for us, is that we trust in the Lord who's done that greater act of rescue for us at the cross. And we trust in His Son, Jesus. But for some of us sitting here, we might be thinking, do you know, there's so much in life that has crushed me, so much that has circumstances which are around me, which make me think, can I trust? Can I believe? And one of the books I'm reading recently is a book about stories of refugees who have come from across the world into Christian countries. Let me just tell you the story of Kim Kong, not King Kong, but Kim Kong. He comes from Malaysia, and to cut a long story short, he says this: our family comes from a traditional Buddhist background, and upon arrival in the United States, we had not been to church or heard about salvation through Jesus Christ. But when I was 11, a pastor came to our apartment complex, knocked on the door, and invited our family to church. Although my mother declined, she encouraged the pastor to take her two of his children, my sister, China, and me, to church. I saw this primarily as a social outing, and allowed me to get away from the refugee project area for a while. When I was 15, so 4 years later, I was invited to a church youth group where I had heard about the love of God and the Father and Jesus for the first time. Many people at the camp shared testimonies about how Jesus changed their lives. Our pastor shared about the love of Jesus each evening. Although I struggled to understand his messages, in the light of our refugee situation, it just didn't make sense. Then one of our youth leaders asked me about my relationship with my father. And since I didn't have a relationship with my father, that question penetrated deep into my heart. I knew that I hungered for a relationship with some kind of father figure, sensing a deep need for a Heavenly Father. I cried out loud. I can say that the realization that God is the Heavenly Father I longed for was a defining point in my life. That was when I reached out to God and I felt that at that point in my life God comforted me. And hear these words. He allowed me to cry out to Him. He allowed me to cry out to Him. And that's the story of everyone who's ever trusted in Jesus. God allows us to cry out to Him. And one of the key things that we find in this passage is that as His people are learning who He is, and as He fights for them, He allows them to cry out to Him with greater knowledge of who He is. He is the God who is powerful, who fights for his people. He delivers, he protects, he saves. He is that God to us in Jesus. I want to encourage you today, if you're struggling to trust him, for any reason that's going on in your life at the moment, look to the God who revealed himself here and trust that this is true, even though our circumstances say otherwise. For those of us who are thinking, I'd love to trust, I just don't know if I can, know that God will allow us as you call out to him to trust him. You think, my heart's just far too hard at this point. No heart is too hard to come to Jesus. You can believe in it. I want to encourage you, trust in his Son. Let's pray. Father God, thank you for revealing yourself in history in this way. Thank you that you are a God who fights for his people, leading them, guiding them, protecting them, and freeing them from slavery. Thank you that you have done this supremely for people from all nations through your Son Jesus at the cross. Thank you that he fought for us and released us from our rejection of you and our wrongs. Thank you that he took the punishment in our place and sets us free. And for those of us who are wondering whether we can trust it, I pray, Lord, that we'll be willing for him to lead us by the hand out of that slavery to the things that we just don't think we can change. I also pray for those of us who feel caught in a way of life that we know doesn't please you, you would free us through Jesus from those ways. Thank you, you know us better than we know ourselves. Thank you, you know our thoughts in every way. Nothing is a surprise to you. But thank you that you have fought for us. And you've come to our aid in Jesus. And thank you that we can trust you. We praise you. We pray that many more people will know the mercy that we've discovered in your Son. In our Son, in your name. Amen.